Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Well, let's try that again. Hey, good morning, everybody. There we go. At least you're awake now. We are in. We're going to do a 1-week series, just talking about the new year here a little bit, and it's called "This Is My Year," because I think. Let's just ask this question: how many of you would like the new year to be better? Right? How many of you would like the new year to be better? Anybody? I see most hands are up, which means that all of the hands should go up. Some of you are just those people that are like, I'm not raising my hand. I don't care what you say. Like I could ask you want $1 million? And you'd be like, just put your hand up if you want $1 million. And there's some people in here that'd be like, no, I'm not putting my hand up. I don't want $1 million. But let me give you 4 categories that most people want things to be better in. Number 1, relationally. We'd like to be relationally better. I know that most of us in here would like that. Everybody in here, nobody in here would say, I don't want more money. So financially, most of us would like to be better, right? Physically, anybody in here, do you have the goal or the aspiration of going, maybe I want to lose a little bit of weight this year? So anybody? So physically. And then it's probably making the list. Maybe it's not the top of the list, but we want to be spiritually better, right? We want, and that's just kind of how it is. As we conclude this year, how would you finish this statement? Next year, I hope to, and that blank. So if you're following along, if you have our notes, if you're on our app, if you're watching at home, go ahead and open it up and just go this year. So nobody sees things except for you in the notes. But this year, what is it? I hope to what? I want to make this better. I want this. What is it? I hope to blank. I hope to have a stronger marriage. I hope to pay off my student debt. I hope to overcome this addiction. I hope to be healthier physically. I hope to start serving in church. I hope that you start serving in church. I hope that we'll be stronger spiritually. And see, fill in that blank. This year, I hope for this. See, most of us, and I can say rarely, if ever, have I ever encountered anybody to go, this next year, Mike, I'd like to get worse. I'd like to get worse. This year, I hope to gain an extra 40 pounds. It'd just be perfect. I want to raise my blood pressure, and I'd like to put myself at a risk for a heart attack. Never heard anybody say that, right? I've never heard anybody come out and go, hey, this year I want to blow my emergency fund and end up 30 or 40K in debt. Right? Or this year, I've never heard anybody go, hey, this next year, you know what I'd really like to do? My marriage is so good, I hope that it gets decimated. Right? Nobody ever says these things, right? Nobody ever comes out and goes, hey, everybody wants things to be better. Even no matter how good things are today, we all want things to be better. We want it to be, hey, we want these things to change. So whether you have a great marriage, you want it to be better. If you're great financially, you want it to be better. If you're great spiritually, you want it to be better. This is what you want. These are the things that we want. And it's actually, the problem is it's inside of us that we want it to be better, but our brains are hardwired to actually prevent us to doing change. Did you guys know that? Your brain is hardwired to do the routine, to be consistent in the routine, to continue to go, hey, I'm going to do these things. Your brain is hardwired for that. You move in a direction, and I've used this analogy before. Did you know that if you're in your living room, the direction you take from your couch to the refrigerator is the same every time? You're just hardwired for it. You just go. You're just like, I got up, I need to get something out of the fridge. You move in that direction. You are hardwired, and it's hard to change. It's hard to build new neural pathways to move in a new direction, to go to a new place, to do things in a different direction. It's really hard for us. So today, we want to be able to put hope, and we want to change things, and we want to put hope in action is what we're going to talk about. So that's the series is called My Best Year Ever, and then today is Hope in Action. And so the Bible talks about newness and New Year's resolutions and then today's not a motivational speech. I don't want you to get that. I don't want you to be like walking out of here and go, man, that was just, it motivated me to do things. What I want to do is I want you to apply the Word of God to your life. That's what I want you to do today. After you walk out of here, you just go, hey, I want to apply the Word of God. And so we're going to open up really quickly. We're only going to spend a couple verses in 1 Peter. So we're going to go 1 Peter 1. And if you have our notes, they're going to be there. They're going to come up on the screen, so don't fear if you don't have a Bible with you. But, so 1 Peter 1, verses 13 through 14, and I'm reading out of an NLT, so it's definitely not going to match what you have right now, and it says, here's what the verse says. So it opens up and it says, put all your hope in the gracious salvation that will come when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world. So you must live as God's obedient children. Don't slip back into your old ways of living to satisfy your own desires. You didn't know any better then. So I just want to be clear. If you were reading that, you're like, why didn't he start at the beginning of the verse? Because I didn't. I jumped into the middle of it. And so if I start back at the beginning of verse 13, it says, so prepare your minds for action and exercise self-control. So prepare your minds for action. See, here's the thing. You are not called to be stagnant. You're not called to be stagnant. You're called to be in action. You're called to be doing things. You're called to be moving in a direction. That's the reason why today is talking about hope in action. You are called to be moving forward. See, the problem is most of us, we like to be comfortable and we like to sit. We don't like to move forward. And so hope in action, movement takes discipline. Moving forward takes discipline. Doing things takes discipline. Most of us, we hate discipline, right? Nobody likes discipline. In fact, the Bible even has this quote. It goes, nobody likes discipline as it happens. It's when we look back. Right? None of us like discipline as it's going on. None of us, well, some of you like it. It's kind of weird. But some of you like discipline as it's going on. But when we look back on it, we see that, hey, that discipline helped me. That discipline got me to where I was trying to go. And here's the line. If you're going to write down anything, this is probably the most important thing you can write down right now. Choosing what you want most over what you want now. Choosing what you want most over what you want now. That is what discipline is. So in this case, if you start thinking about this, see, what is it that you want to do? So for some of you, it's not me. Some of you go, I want to play video games all the time. I want to play video games right now. I want to play all the time. But so you might be going, what I want now is I want to play video games, but what I want most is a relationship with my children. Right? I want to play video games, but what I want is a relationship with my children. What is it that you want most over what you want now? Here's my better example that would be for me. Here's the thing. Maybe some of you can relate to me. I would rather eat out than eat at home. Right? Anybody in here? Right? And it's not because I enjoy the food. Right? It's not like I'm like going to these fast food places and going, your food is absolutely delicious. It is because I'm lazy. And it's not just that I'm lazy. So it's like I don't want to fight with my kids. I don't want to have this conversation going, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And then trying to create some sort of recipe in the middle of it, like going, okay, this one doesn't eat this one doesn't eat that, and this. And instead of me going, well, just all of you starve, we're going to eat what I want to eat. I would rather just go get fast food and let them order off of whatever. But the problem is, if you eat fast food on a regular basis, what does it do? It does lots of things, actually, but there's two pretty damaging ones that you pretty much notice instantly. Number one, it affects your pocketbook. It tears up your wallet. So, there's a statistic that's coming out, and you're going to see it a little more often, especially now that there's some fast food minimum wage increases that are coming in the next couple of days, so you're going to see some things that are going to happen really. But did you know that if you go to McDonald's now, two of their regular meals, you will walk out, spend without supersizing, without doing any of those things, you're going to spend $21.84 for two meals. Right? That's just what it is. So if you take a family of four and you have one that has a $15 meal, you're $50 a meal into it. I don't know whose budget can handle $50 a meal twice a day, 7 days a week, and still for you to go, hey, man, our bank account is doing well, right? The second thing that comes out of there is that we all said we want to be a little healthier. Well, you're not going to get that with fast food, right? You're like, man, I love fast food, so it's going to make me skinny. Unless you stop eating fast food altogether and just go, I'm not going to eat anymore, but that's what happens. So if you go, I want to lose weight and I want to get out of debt, stop eating fast food. I'll just tell you that now. And that could be, the other thing that I consider fast food is Starbucks. So if you have a Starbucks addiction, it's just as bad as having a fast food addiction, right? So what do I want most? What is it the direction I want? What is it that I want most over what I want now? Now today, we're going to turn back a little bit here, and we're going to see an example in the Bible. And so if you open up to Nehemiah, and we're going to open up right into the beginning of this. And so there's really some steps that Nehemiah gives us as how to move forward and what we need to do as we move into this new year. How do we put hope in action? And so if you're following along, again, number one, Nehemiah gives us the example of going, define the problem. We need to define the problem. Well, we see this in Nehemiah's life. Here's the setup for this. He's a Jewish man, and he's in service to the Persian king, right? And it's this Persian king, he's a cupbearer, which meant that he serves the king wine. He has to taste it, but it was to ensure that he wasn't poisoned. So he's trusted, right? He's trusted by this king, and this king sees that there's something going on with Nehemiah. And so as he defines, so he says, hey, what's going on? What's happening? And Nehemiah had heard from some friends that just returned from Jerusalem. He'd hear from them, and he goes, hey, they give him this story about how terrible things are in Jerusalem. He's serving, and he hears about this, and Nehemiah makes his plan. So Nehemiah 1:3, again from the NLT, he says, they said to me, things are not going well for those who return to the province of Judah. They are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down and has been destroyed by fire. Now there's an important thing about the wall here. See, that wall is a sign of security, is a protection. It's the protection they have from security of their enemies. If you've ever, maybe you've lived in a house that you've had the American dream where you've had the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence around the front of it. That white picket fence on the front of it is when you look at that is your protection, right? It's a form of, hey, at some houses wow, that kid is happy. He hears my voice, and every time he hears it, he's like, ah! No, I'm sorry. But as you see this, is that picket fence, if somebody comes and tears down the picket fence and just leaves it in ruins in your front yard, it all of a sudden looks like your house was raided, right? All of a sudden the protection goes away. All of a sudden that nice picket fence becomes it looks like a war zone at your place. And so this is what people have returned to. They've lost the security of their nice white picket fence, and in this case would be an 18-foot wall. They've lost the security of this 18-foot wall, and they feel vulnerable. They feel at risk. They feel that when people come up, they see it, and they go, man, my gosh, what has happened here? What is going on? And their enemies could easily come and steal from them. It's the same thing that would happen at our houses now. They would just come and trample on your yard. They would just come and take over. And if they wanted to steal your nice, your Stewart that's out in the front yard that's blown up, they would just come and take it. We have a minion that's in our front yard that I think everybody wants to take. But your enemies could come and get them. See, Nehemiah, he just didn't, so he hears about all this, and he goes, I got to change something, and he's brokenhearted about it, and he goes, I have to do something about this. See, for you, going into this new year, you have to get to the point where you have to go, I have to do something about my weight, my finances, my spiritual relationships. I have to do something about these things. You have to feel that. You have to have a passion about it. You have to go, I have to do something about this. Because if you don't do something about it, you will never actually move in it. It will never cause you to have an emotional change to it. If you don't ever get to this point where you go, hey, this year I want it to be different, but continue to do the same thing, whatever change. So the perfect example, Dave Ramsey uses this line. He says, if you're trying to get a chocolate cake, but all you keep doing is getting vanilla, right? You keep making cakes, and you get a vanilla cake over and over again. Well, guess what you need to do? You have to change the recipe. You have to change the recipe in order to get the right thing. The problem is most of us, we're not changing the recipe. We want to get better, but we continue to do the same things over and over and over again. You have to change the recipe, and the only way that you'll be able to change the recipe is to start going out and going, I need to defeat this. I have to change this. I have to do something about it. See, Nehemiah defined the problem. You cannot defeat what you don't define. What is the problem? What is it that you're after? You have to define the problem. You have to get into it. So if you guys don't know, I deal with anger. And I deal with unforgiveness sometimes. I hold things. And see, it's been a problem I've had for years. It just is. It's one of those things. If I'm going to defeat it this year, I have to go, this is the problem. This is what I'm going to do to change it. If you cannot beat what you can't define. If you can't define it, you can't change it. See, in this case, when you look at this was the case for Nehemiah. He goes, this is what the issue is. I need to go restore security to my ancestors. I need to go restore community, and I need to go fix the walls. Now, mind you, this is an important thing. The walls have been down for 152 years. The walls have been down for 152 years. See, here's the thing. Most of us, our financial problems haven't just been for the month of December. Most of us, our weight issues haven't just been for 2023. Most of us, the things that we're dealing with are not just one of these things that, hey, it just came up yesterday. I'm going to make my resolutions. I'm going to make my goals based off of what I had yesterday. Most of it has been that it's been happening for years. We've been allowing it to go on and on and on and on. And we're not defining the problem to be able to make it better, to be able to change it and go. And so I don't want you to sit here and go, well, Mike, that's just how it's always been. Nehemiah knew no different about the walls being down. He goes, I'm going to fix it. 152 years later. So for you could be like, hey, I've been overweight for 20 years. I'm going to fix it. I've been in debt for the last 50 years. I'm going to fix it. Whatever it is, you just have to go, I need to end this. I need to change it. I need to do something about it. See, and I want you to know, no doubt that people back then have been trying to fix the walls already. For years, people have been trying to do it. And so what I don't want you to think is that for whatever you have going on, there's been no doubt in my mind, just like there should be no doubt in yours, that for years and years, they just haven't been successful. This year, you're going to make a difference, though, right? You're going to change it. So as much as you maybe don't want to admit it, your marriage isn't exactly where it needs to be. Perhaps there's a substance that's taken over in your life. Some of you, just even admitting that you have depression would be a step in the right direction. See, you have to get better at going, I have to start defining things so I can defeat it. I have to start getting to this, you have to get to that mindset. See, call it out. Make it clear. This is what it is. So here's what it says. It says, then one day, just like in there, they started to rebuild the wall. One day in there, they just started. Nehemiah comes out and goes, we must rebuild the wall. From this point, things will be different. From today, things will be different. So when you look at this, a couple weeks ago, I brought up this series and I just said, hey, we have to get better at churning the page. We have to get better at going, hey, that's the end of chapter 1. It's now the time to turn the page and move on to chapter 2. And so for some of you, it might be that chapter 1 ended with the walls down. Well, chapter 2 starts with the rebuilding of the walls. You may go out and go, I need to. So if you're having something going on in your marriage, you go, I have to pursue my spouse. That's the define. Maybe you're going, hey, I'm tempted to look at something that I'm not supposed to. I'm looking at videos. I'm doing these things. Well, I'm going to put filters on all the devices I have. Start putting up roadblocks, making it decisions to go, hey, I'm going to put these things in place to make it to where, if you watch, have you ever seen the movie Fireproof? In Fireproof, in order to avoid him from looking at whatever was online that he was looking at, he took the computer out and took a baseball bat to it. The neighbors thought he was crazy. Or the neighbors were like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? But for him, it was, I have to put this in place to make it to where I put in the guardrails. It's like we're going out and we're playing. Anybody ever took your kids? When my oldest was young, they didn't have bumper bowling, right? It didn't exist. I don't know when they created that, but it didn't exist then. And so you would take her, and it would be very disappointing, right? And I'm not a big bowler, and I avoid the gutter more often than I'm in the gutter. But when you take a child with no bumpers, where's the ball end up at most of the time? in the gutter. Well, that doesn't make it an enjoyable experience for that child, right? It doesn't make it to where things are going on. So what do? They put in guardrails. They put up these little things that make it to where, at some places they're nifty now. They don't even have to blow up things down the lanes. They just use these little things that pop up, and all of a sudden there's these instant guardrails down each one of them. See, the thing is, we have to establish those guardrails so that we don't end up in a life of sin or in a direction to where we're looking back at the end of 2024 going, I really wish that I would have took that message that Mike talked about putting some guardrails up at the end of 2023 so that I would have changed some things. I would have got rid of these things. I would have put some filters on it to where I'm not pursuing that same stuff going into 2025. See, that's going to be the issue, is that some of us today, we're going, I want to make changes, I want to get rid of this, I want to do this, and we're going to end up saying the same thing in 2020, at the end of 2024 going into 2025, because we don't actually step in and define and what we're trying to go after and start moving in that direction. We don't actually start doing it. So, we have to get to this point. We have to go on, this has gone on long enough. I'm going to be different. I'm turning the page. So last year was a different story. I'm turning a new page onto this new thing. I'm going to change the page. So here's, you might be going, it's been so painful and it's been so unstable and so rocky for so long that it's just become the normal. That's where you might be at. Your normal is crazy. I mean, so at our house, not that we don't have you might think that our marriage is crazy because it is a little crazy. But here's the thing. If you talk to anybody, they would go, Mike and Melissa are so busy. They have so much going on. It's like the normal. Like they go, oh, it's just normal. But it's complete chaos for everybody else. They're like, what is going on? Like if you were to step into what we consider normal, you would be like, this is absolutely nuts, because it is. It is. And so for us, we've just gotten so used to the chaos that it's our normal. So for some of you, you've gotten so used to the chaos, whatever that chaos is in your finances and your health, into whatever, it's just normal. And you're like going, well, this is how it's always been. Well, you need to step into it and go, okay, well, we're going to change that, and we're going to go back to what people, the world defines as normal, and not what you consider normal anymore, right? Like if you're, just give you an idea, not that anybody in here is doing this, again, you're all perfect. You come to the edge. Everything's magical. But there's people out there that like every day they're doing meth, right? Every single day. It's normal to them to do meth, right? That's just their normal day. They get up in the morning, or instead of meth, we could just do weed, right? There's people out there that go every day. It's normal for them to get, and they just say, hey, wake and bake, right? They get up, they start smoking weed. They have lunch, they start smoking weed. They have a cup of coffee, they smoke weed. Same thing with cigarettes. I can't have coffee without my cigarettes. I can't after I eat, I have to have a cigarette. There's people out there, that's the norm. That's what it is. That's their normal. In general, that's not normal, by the way. So your normal of getting up every morning and going, well, I got to find that bowl so I can wake and bake, that's your normal, but for 97% of the population, that's not normal. How do you change that? How do you redefine that? What do you go, hey, what do I have to do? How do we make it right? How do we get out of this great trouble that Nehemiah would reference, right? How do I get out of this great trouble? How do I get out of the ruins of my life? How do I correct this disgrace? What do I have to change? What do I have to do? These walls, this relationship, my finances, my spirituality have been broken. It's all vulnerable and it's at risk. How do I change it? See, because what happens is in all of those areas, if you're struggling financially, if you're struggling relationally, if you're struggling spiritually, if you're struggling with health, where do you think the evil one's going to attack? Where do you think that's going to happen? It's going to happen where you're already struggling, so that way he can easily defeat you. That's where it's going to happen at. So what you're basically saying, I'm going to continue to allow the walls to lay in disgrace so that I can be easily attacked all the time. We have to change it. So what I want you to know something is that what you're defining as your biggest problem right now, God's defining as the greatest opportunity in your life. Right now, God is defining that as the greatest opportunity in your life. Something can change today. You can walk out of here today and go, I'm going to make this, I'm going to give God this greatest opportunity. It's going to be his greatest glory to change what I was into what I will be. And so that's where we have to be. So number one, how do we put a hope in action? We define the problem. Number two, we diligently seek God. We diligently seek God. See, we see Nehemiah do this. In Nehemiah 1, verse 4, we see, when I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days, I mourned, I fasted, and I prayed to the God of heaven. So I want to stop here for a second. So usually we start the new year off with a fast and and we'll do 21 days of prayer. We're actually going to start that next week, so I wanted you to get a little mentally prepared. Go out and enjoy your New Year's Eve, whatever you're going to do. Recover tomorrow. Next week we'll talk about, and you'll get an email from me about what 21 days of fasting looks like. By the way, I'm never going to ask you to give up food for 21 days, so don't. But I will ask you to give up something that will cause you to every time that you think about it, every time that you want it, that you will seek God in that time in order to find that nourishment rather than whatever it is that you're after at that point. So let me back to this. When I heard this, I sat down and I wept. In fact, for days, I mourned, I fasted, and I prayed to the God of heaven. See, there's realness in sadness. There's realness here, right? There's the reality of sadness, and it's real, and there's a lot that's happened. But really what he does is he sits down and he cries. He cries about the situation, and then he kneels to pray. Most of us in our lives, we've stopped kneeling to pray. So we've gotten to this point where this position doesn't exist in our lives. It just doesn't. This position is a vulnerable position. This position here makes you easily, if somebody was to come and pursue me right here, it's hard for me to defend myself from this position. What do we tell people all the time? Stand up. Stand up, and especially as a man, right? You hear as a kid, you're always told, get up, shake it off, stand up, be a man, right? And that's what we hear. And so what we miss out on a lot of times is that in this vulnerable position right here, being on our knees, this is when we're going to be most in tune with God, because this is when we're most submissive to his instruction to us. This is when we're most submissive to it. When you're sitting here and you're in your prayer closet and you're in your time alone with him and you're on your knees and you're sitting there and you're going, God, direct my steps. You'll hear him much better than you will if you're trying to run around, do everything else. And if you're standing up and going, I got to get to this and I got to get to that. If you put yourself in this vulnerable position, you will so much easily hear God than you will if you're trying to just maneuver it in the chaos of your life. You have to take this time. You have to relax here. You have to kneel back and you have to go, God, I'm going to spend time with you in prayer. I'm going to spend time with you here. I'm going to spend time in this vulnerable position and just go, God, speak to me. What do you have for me? Which direction will you have me go? What will you have me do? And start being obedient to this. It's not just about going, well, I spent 30 seconds in prayer. I know that when you open up and you start reading in Romans and you start seeing this and it says be in continual prayer all the time, always be talking to God. That's different. That's a daily, that's just like, hey, I'm out moving, I'm out doing things. I'm trying to seek God's guidance in the middle of this. This here is an act, this is a posture of going, God, guide me for the day. This is one of those things I surrender. My life is yours. Do with me what you would have done. That's where we have to be. You want to start giving up some of these things that we have, you have to get better into this posture of prayer and going, I'm going to be here and I'm going to kneel and I'm going to pray. See, the moment he defined the problem, so I asked you at the beginning of this, define the problem. What is it that you want to change? What is it that you're after? Now start spending time with God. Kneel down and pray and spend time with about it. See, the moment he defines it, he goes, Jerusalem is in great trouble and it's in disgrace. He goes, let me work with the one who can help me get it done. Let me work with the one who can help me make it, that we can change this. When you have a true God vision, when God goes, this is what I want you to change, you're going to need the God of heaven to help you get through it. You need to get there with it. So, I'm already out of time, but we've got more to get to. All right. That's it. All right. So here's what. So I am going to jump ahead a little bit, but we're not going to miss out on anything. So when you look at this and you see the direction and you see what's happening here and you see what God's doing, see Nehemiah has this going. He goes. He spends time with God. He spends time in prayer. He spends time going, hey, this is what we need to hear. This is what we need to do. This is the direction we need to go. And what ends up happening is that people around him, mainly the king of Persia, sees him at this point. He's walking around and it looks like there's something wrong. Have you ever seen anybody when you look at them and you go, like I see it with my spouse all the time. With Melissa, she'll be walking around angry. They'll be like, ooh, something's wrong, right? Like you can see it. It's written on her. Like you may not see it, but I can see it, right? So just imagine the king who spent a lot of time with the guy who's his cupbearer, because he's got to trust this guy, right? He's got to get to know him. He's got to be like, hey, this is the guy who's feeding me the wine that can point to me. Obviously there was a huge problem back then if you had to have a cupbearer that was preventing you from being poisoned. I mean, there was a huge problem with however you were managing things, because people were like, we need to kill him, so just put it in his wine. He drinks lots of it. And so, but there was there was something that was happening there. Well, it's the same thing at home. You can read it on your spouse. You can see it with somebody that you're entrusted with. You can see it. And if you're at school or you're hanging out with somebody, you can see it with them too. Your best friend's upset. Guess what? You see it. This is what happens. The king sees that Nehemiah is upset. And so I'm sure for the king, it's not just like, hey, you seem like you're upset. I'm sure that he's more like, hey, are you getting ready to poison me? What's going on here? What's happening? And so the king asks Nehemiah, he goes, hey, what's going on? What's happening? You look distraught. Are you getting ready to kill me? What's happening here? And Nehemiah responds and he goes, no, I have to go do something. My ancestors, the place where my ancestors come from is in ruin. It's a disgrace. I have to change this. And the king goes, well, you should go do it. The king gives him permission. And so here's the thing. Nehemiah steps right into the next thing and he goes, well, hey, king, now that you've given me permission, will you provide me with a letter of safe transport? I need to get there without getting killed on the way there. And would you tell the person who's in charge of the timber to give me enough wood to rebuild the fence? So what happens is he goes, hey, not only do I need you to give me and direct my steps and give me permission to go, which is what we need to seek God for. We need to seek God for permission to go, but we also need to seek God for the tools necessary to complete what we're doing. God, provide me with the steps, the direction. Where am I supposed to go? Seek him for the next step. Realize that the provision can come from him that you need in order to be able to move in the direction that he's asking you to do. See, we have to realize that God has given us everything that we need to do everything that he wants us to do. All we have to do is start listening and being obedient to what he's asked us to do and which direction to go. How do we put our hope in action? How do we change this year? Number one, we define the problem. Number two, we seek God. Number three, here's the part that here's where you get upset with me. You go, Mike, I don't mind. I'll define the problem. I know that I have relational issues. I know I have spiritual issues. I know I have this. And you'll seek God about it. You'll spend time in prayer on the couch, right? You'll sit there, you'll spend time, maybe you can get down and you get on your knees and you'll spend time in prayer. Where the hiccup happens is doing the work. That's where the hiccup happens. So the hiccup happens, so there's a blank here. It says one. So if you go back to that blank, just go ahead and put that blank up because they're going to need it. Oh, here's some scripture I skipped over. You can put that one up too. You know very well what trouble we're in. Jerusalem lies in ruins and the gates destroyed. Gave you that story already. Anyway, go back to do the work. So I'll just fill in the blanks for you later. Anyway, so we are afraid to go out and do the work. So you have to do the work. So this year, January is going to start. It's going to happen tomorrow. And you're going to go, hey, these are the things I want to get done. And the problem is, for most of us, your resolutions will be dead in 3 weeks. That's how it goes. You barely make it 21 days. By the 22nd, because nobody ever goes, on the 1st, we're going to do this, right? On the 1st, you're like, all right, tomorrow, we're going to do this. So in 3 weeks, you're going to be talking about, how do I go back to this? How do I get back into it? And so all of your resolutions are gone because you've already stepped back into what you've already done. So here's the thing. If I gave you an option and go, hey, your life could be better if you did these things, or you could continue having the same by doing what you've always done, what would you do? We say we would do those things. We're like, I'll do those things. But then as soon as you put the caveat, well, those things have work. It's not going to be easy. Well, then you're like, oh, no, work? I'm not doing work. I'm going to go back over here and I'll just stay here. The couch is really, really comfortable. I was really intentional when I bought this couch. And then I broke it in. It fits me really perfect, like all those things. And see, that's the mindset. Like, I'm going to go back to what I was doing instead of actually doing the work that's necessary in order to have what we wanted most, right? When we talk about this, at the beginning of this, rather than what we want now, what is it that we want most? So this is what happens is Nehemiah does, as soon as he gets to Jerusalem, he walks in and he goes, I need to inspect the damage. I've already come up with a plan. This is what we have to do. And here's what he says. Nehemiah 2, verses 17 through 18, he says, you know very well what trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace, and end this. Then I told him about how gracious the hand of God had been on me, how he got there, how all these things happened, how all of this thing happened, and he says, and then they responded, yes, let's rebuild the wall. Let's end this disgrace. Let's get rid of this. And so they began a good work. Some of us, starting tomorrow, we need to begin a good work in our lives. We need to start changing things. The good news is the great work and the good work can start as soon as you step into it. You don't even have to wait for tomorrow. And see, the other thing is, I don't want you to think that you're going to start this good work tomorrow and it's going to go without opposition. The first thing you're going to face is opposition. So here's the thing. You go, we're going to get out of debt this year. The first thing that's going to happen, you're going to come out to a flat tire. Or the car is not going to start, or the kids are going to need something, or it's just going to happen to where you're going to go from going, hey, we're going to make this plan, all of a sudden you're going to go into attack in that very spot that you go, this is what we need to fix. This is what we need to change. This is what we're going to do. See, that good news, that good work that you're going to do is going to be, you're going to face opposition. Anything that you're going to do for God and anything that's going to be considered good, you're going to face opposition from the evil one. It's going to happen. In fact, it's guaranteed. You're going to find discouragement. People are going to see you start reading your Bible, or you're going to see people are going to go, what are you doing that for? Why would you do that? What is wrong with you? You're going to face discouragement. So don't think for a moment that you can go without opposition. And so we see that with Nehemiah. Nehemiah faces opposition. As soon as they start seeing that he's making progress, they start showing up. They're like, hey, does he think that he can really rebuild the walls? We're going to put an end to that. That's the same thing. Do you think that you're really going to lose weight? We're going to put an end to that. Do you think you're really going to get out of debt? We're going to put an end to that. Do you think that you're really going to have a better marriage? We're going to put an end to that. Do you think that you're really going to get closer to God? We're going to put an end to that. That's the opposition that you're going to face. You think you're really going to lead this? You're going to do that? People are going to try and discourage you, and you have to continue to do the good work. You have to continue to move in that. In the face of opposition, you have to continue to do it. Look at what his steadfast mindset is. He goes out there and he goes in Nehemiah 6:3, he says, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. I can't come down from this. We can take advice from Taylor Swift, right? Shake it off, right? We should all date Travis Kelce. That's what we know to Kim. No. See, we have to get to this mindset. We have to shake it off. I'm doing a great work, shake it off. I don't have time for that. I can't come down. You have to get better at hearing the voice in your head going, this is what you're doing for God, rather than the external voices going, why are you doing that for God? Why are you doing this? Why is it that? And so what do you think you're doing? I can't get this done. I can't go to meetings all the time. I'm telling you is that you can, because when you realize that you are doing a great work, what you are trying to do, how you're going to move forward this next year, you're going to be doing a great work. What does it look like to you? What is it that you're trying to give up? What is it that you're trying to work through? What is it in your life that you're going, hey, I need to get rid of this? You want to get clean? Start doing the good work. You want to be able to make it to where you make better decisions? Start doing the good work about what you're studying and how you're listening and obeying what God is. You think that you have an anger issue? Start doing the good work of learning how to control your temper. Start doing the good work. Shake it off. Shake off all of those things. Shake off what's going on and step into the newness and this new page of going, God, I'm going to move in the direction you're asking me to go. You've already provided me everything I need, the people around me that I need, the things that I need. You've already made me aware of what I need to do. Now step into it. Step in and start doing the work. You know, I don't know how long I was trying to preach for, but man. Whew. So here's what I want you to do. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of where we started at in this thing. So let's start back at, when you start all the way back at this. This year, I hope to what? This year, I hope to what? You know, what is it that you're trying to change? What is it that you're going to make a difference in? This year, I'm going to make it, this year it's going to be different. This year, I'm going to spend time with God. This year, what is it that I'm going to do? Now define and start looking at going, how do I make that a reality? This year, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be better at this. I'm going to make this happen. Start defining these things and start going, all right, now I'm going to step into it. Now, here's the thing. Most of us have a small problem that it's not just one issue, right? When I said, hey, we need to work on our finances, we need to work on our relationships, we need to work on our spirituality, we need to work on et cetera, et cetera. The problem is most of us, and maybe you're like me, do you need to work on all four? So here's the problem. If you work on all four of them at once, it'll be too much. It'll be too much. So you're going to have to allow some of the chaos as you're working through each one of these at a time. Now, that doesn't mean that you can just be like, well, I'm trying to get over this addiction, Mike, but you told me to get out of my finances, so this one is more important than finances, so my habit has to continue to go on. No. You have to be able to prioritize and go, this is the most important thing that I have to change right now. I have to change this one. I have to go, this is what I'm going to fix. This is the one. And so if it's an addiction that's tearing you up, then you have to change that one first. But work on one right now. Set goals. Start going, this is what I'm going to change. I'm going to change this one. I hope to make this better. I hope to change this. I want God to heal me. I want God to restore my finances. I want God to restore my relationships. I want God to... Well, start working on that one. When you look at this and you look at the actions that Nehemiah took, see, here's the thing. It did not take him a year to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. It didn't take a year. It took 52 days. It took 52 days to change his world, to change the world of people around him. So if you just take that and that one thing, if you go, hey, I'm going to focus on this one thing for the next 52 days. Well, by the end of February, guess what? That's already taken care of. And then next month, the next thing, you start the next process. And you go, hey, I've worked on this one, now let's step into the next thing. And by the end of the year, you can accomplish all four of them, but start with one. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't make it to where you can't get anything done because you're like, oh, I've got all of these things to happen. Define the problem, spend time with God, then do the work. Whew. Okay, there's a whole lot more here. I guess I'm going to have to do some more stuff on this. But I tell you that there's a mission, right? Every time when we walk out of the door, there's a mission. We go, so every time we leave here, we leave we'll call this our sanctuary of safe space, and then we walk out into the mission field. And as we walk out into the mission field, we have to recognize it's called a mission, right? You're walking out into the mission field on a mission. When you walk out of these doors, you have a mission. Number one, you have to define what you're going to change. What is it that you're after? What are you going to do? So define that. I don't expect to have an answer, but you need to have an answer. You need to define it and go, this is the direction we're going to go. Spend time with God about it. Spend time with God going, hey, how would you have me move here? How would you have me do this? How would you have me take care of these things? How would you have me continue to do what you would consider this great work? You are a great work. I think that's probably one of these things that you have to recognize. You have to recognize that. So when you look at this and you hear what an angel says to Gideon, and when he says, because Gideon goes, hey, I'm the least of these, I'm the smallest, I'm the poorest, I'm the last of the line of my father's line, and yet what does the angel call him? He says, you are a mighty warrior. You are a mighty warrior. And so for some of you, you are a mighty princess. You are and I know that she goes, oh, we're supposed to call you queens, but no. All right, you are a warrior. And so as you walk out of the door today, recognize that God has already started a good work in you, and now you are a mighty warrior to go out into the mission field ready to fight the battles that you're going to face today. You're going to face it. You're going to walk in and something's going to happen, and if you can be angry, it's going to happen. If you can mess up financially, it's going to happen. These are all things that'll happen, and you have to recognize, hey, I'm out here, I have to be on defense because I'm a warrior. And you've already had this good work that started. You just have to sit out there and you have to just recognize and go, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to do what God has asked me to do. And so I'm defining what I need to fight. I'm defining what I need to do. I'm defining what the mission is out there. And if you're in the military, you know that, hey, the mission, we're going to go out there and we're going to take care of that. And at the end of that, we'll go on to the next thing. But this is the mission. Walk out of here and go, hey, we're going to take care of this. And I'm going to be on defense. And I'm going to be ready for whatever's going to come at me. And I tell you, the second thing, might be just as important. So I tell you to invite a friend. And this week, I'll tell you to invite a friend because here's what it is. If you want to go far, you take somebody with you. If you want to go fast, you go alone. The problem is going fast means that you don't go very far. Most of us, we want to go far. We want to go far in life. We want to go far in in what we're doing. We want to go our direction, our life. I want to go far. I don't want to just get to where I'm going fast and have it all end. Well, you got to do it with somebody. And so what I tell you is bring a friend, because a friend will be your accountability partner. You need somebody to bounce things off of. You know why most people stop going to the gym after 15 days? Best thing in the world. Gyms love you, by the way. They love you right now, because here's what's going to happen. You show up to the gym on the 31st and be like, hey, I need to sign up for a membership. I'm getting ready to do this. Well, 2 weeks later, you stop going, and they still charge your credit card for the fees. You pay for them to store your gym equipment. Because you don't go. You don't use it, nothing. Well, here's the thing. The reason why you don't go is because you're doing it alone. Find a workout partner. You'll do it further, you'll go longer, and you'll do it more often. So, you want to come to church more often? Find a spiritual buddy. You'll spend more time with God, you'll spend more time in church, and you'll have somebody that you can bounce ideas about. Because I can tell you right now, the more that you read Scripture, the more questions you're going to have, and you're going to go, my gosh, can somebody tell me, what do you think that this means? What do you think this means? There's a lot that's in there that can be confusing, and it's better to have somebody to bounce it off of rather than coming to me. You come to me sometimes, and somebody goes, Mike, what do you think this means? I don't know. What does it mean to you? So, find somebody to do this with. Whether it's at this church or another church, find somebody to do this with. Find a buddy. Get in a small group. Start finding somebody to start moving and doing this great work together. All right. Guys, we're going to pray, and then we're going to close out in some worship. So I would say, you know what, let's just get in this posture of prayer, but why don't we just do this? Let's bow our heads. Let's bow our heads, and what I would ask you to do is I wanted you to just go I want you to assess your 2023. Just look back at 2023 and go, God, with your help, 2024 will be a whole new thing, and it'll be a good work. So let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for 2023, and thank you for each and every year beforehand, because it has set us up for 2024. You've set us up to see what the mission should be. You've set us up to see what we're supposed to do. You've set us up to see the direction that we're supposed to go. And so, Father, we ask you that as we've been pulled back like an arrow getting ready to be projected into the target in front of us, that as we start moving that direction, that you guide us. That we just don't end up flailing about out there, that it is your guidance, that we are listening for your Spirit, that we continue to seek you and earnestly and spend time in prayer with you and just go, God, help guide my steps for this new year and help continue to help me pursue you and help stay on the mission that you've laid out before me. Father, there's going to, for every opposition and every obstacle that comes up and everything that I even put before us, and myself, and anything that comes up, help us each overcome those things. Help us overcome each obstacle as it just is nothing. We know that your word says that as we as we continue to move closer to you, that we will face testing, and that testing helps produce perseverance. And that perseverance is what brings us into harmony with you. Father, help us pursue you with everything. Not allowing just the hiccups that are going to happen. As we walk out of even the door today, the hiccup that's going to be as we walk out the door, just whatever it is, that we can just continue to love and pursue you, and we stay on the mission. Father, as each one of us, we leave here today, we ask that we make 2024 not just a year for us, but a year for you. Help us to make this year to where we're glorifying you, to where we have this newness in you, we have this new relationship with you, we have this new thing. Father, I firmly believe you're doing a new thing in each one of us, and that you've started a great work, and that you're not going to be done with us until it's fully complete and we're with you in heaven. And so, Father, we ask that you help us to continue on that good work. Father, thank you. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. We all said, Amen.